them where it's bad. And where it's good, we'll recommend them. The good people of Ghana will only give us a chance as parents to bring forth another child if we are able to tell Ghanaians that, look, we brought forth a child. He was a bad child in this area. He was a very good child in this area. Please give us a chance to give you another child. And maybe that child will be me.
Let's see how that goes. Mr. do we endorse let's know your stance now. Are we going for Vice President Bami? Are we going for Trade Minister?
I speak for government and party.
Anyway,
and I'm not to take sides.
We hear you. We hear you, George. We hear you. But also joining us, and I haven't seen him in a while, lawyer George Opariado. He is the National Youth Organizer for the NDC. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing as well?
God has been merciful. If not for this bad economy, everything would have been fine.
I mean, you keep saying that every time I ask you how you doing.
Of course, the economy is in
You're globetrotting.
Who is globetrotting? But has the economy got anything to do with me globetrotting?
Oh, but if you say the economy is bad, I mean, you should reflect in your pockets as well.
It is reflecting. It is reflecting. No,
but he says you've been globetrotting, so that means everything is fine.
No, is everything fine with you?
Is everything fine with you?
He has personal business that's doing well.
Certainly.
I mean,
maybe.
Oh, within the economy.
No, within the economy.
Are you paying your taxes, by the way? Or you have some businesses where you know the taxes are... You're unemployed?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is that so? So how are you able to raise money to try a lawyer? So if you say you're unemployed, I'm
lawyers
confused.
can never be unemployed, please.
Because lawyers, people don't pay taxes.
Who said?
You don't pay taxes. You don't pay taxes.
Said it. And you guys, he said it at your GBA. He said it at the lawyers' conference. And nobody challenged him.
You see, currently, before you even renew your license, you must show proof of paying your tax. So
he got it wrong
after he made that statement.
You're saying after.
That was after.
No, he's saying
prior
after.
to that. Were you paying taxes?
Of course, yes.
Oh, I see.
Of course, yes.
Oh, yeah.
For
So
instance,
why didn't you challenge the minister when he made that
but
statement?
when somebody makes that statement on the platform, are you going to wake up and walk to that platform and say that way?
Not necessarily, but you have access to
But
the media. You have access to social media. You're a lawyer.
I was not at that conference anyway, but for whatever reasons, that assertion was wrong.
Oh, I see.
Lawyers do pay taxes. Professionals do pay taxes. But we pay various taxes. We have a lot of indirect taxes we pay. But income tax, yes, we do pay.
I see.
Of course, yes.
Okay.
So we file our returns.
And you pay
Interesting.
E-Levy as well.
This conversation about E-Levy and whether you pay or not, I mean, there have been concerns. I like that you brought that up.
As for E-Levy,
you don't
in
want
the coming days, we'll be hitting the streets. You're
going on a,
of course, yes.
on a demonstration.
As for E-Levy, it is criminal. We are not going to accept it today. We are not going to accept it tomorrow. Of course, yes. Is it taxes?
But they've agreed to reduce it to 1.5%.
No, so what kind of tax is E-Levy? Is it an income tax? Is it a value-added tax? What kind of tax is E-Levy? There are certain principles that should guide us when you are coming out with taxes. What does E-Levy tell you? What are you going to pay? What are you paying? When TV3 pays you, Bella, you put your money in your purse. And then Johnny decides to put his money on his e-wallet. And you all go to the fufu seller next door. And you take cash out of your purse and pay from your salary that you've already been charging income tax. And Johnny decides that he's going to pay off his phone and his tax. Is that fair? Where is the equality in this? Taxes must be predictable. There should be some certainty about what you are paying. And then it should be equal. There should be some equality. So you cannot be paying and I will not be paying. Because if I am paid and I keep to put my money in my pocket, am I going to be taxed on that money in my pocket? Certainly not. Why would I have money on my e-wallet and be taxed on it when I choose to take it out and then pay for a transaction?
So you see that as double taxation?
Certainly.
Okay.
As for E-Levy, in the coming days, we'll be hitting the streets, the demonstration, and every well-meaning Ghanaian should join in this struggle. We cannot allow this government to take us for granted. E-Levy is a lazy man's approach in raising revenue. And their own people are telling them.
Which is what you've been saying for a while. But I mean, I remember again, and I'll go back to this issue, that the minority leader at a point said there was some prior engagement between the majority and minority. And they suggested that majority should even consider a 0.05%
At that time, did they listen to us? But you see, Bella, the voice of the people is the voice of the Lord. Currently, everybody in this country is against E-Levy. So what are they seeking to achieve? The people are telling you, we don't want to pay the E-Levy. Going into the streets. I've seen videos of TV stations, radio stations, going into the streets and speaking to Ghanaians. And they are telling you that we won't pay this tax. Clearly, this government should have failed. E-Levy, what will 7 billion do to 12 billion that you lose in revenue? What is 7 billion going to do? With the kind of hole we are in now, 83, debt to GDP ratio is now 83%. Where is the fiscal space to operate? E-Levy is not the way out. Like Esmeyewa told them yesterday, this morning, Ken Oforiatta should be putting the country to the World Bank and asking for support. That is the only way out. Where we are today, the conditions that led Ghana to the IMF in 2014, the conditions that led us to HIPC in 2001, we are in far worse situations than those times. So what are they waiting for? Are they hoping the economic grants to a halt before they make that phone call? We cannot afford to let this happen to our country.
Mr. Isi, let me bring you in and ask you, because this is on the back of the the conference that took place, some engagement some few days ago. And I remember that the communications minister put out some figures. It was corroborated by the finance minister about the percentage of Ghanaians who are paying taxes, which is why they needed to widen the tax net. We're told just about 2.8 million people out of about 11 million people, economically endowed people were paying taxes. But there was a report by the Ghana Revenue Authority, and they had indicated that there were 6.6 million Ghanaians that had filed their taxes. And this was based on provisional reports and results of the latest census in Ghana, the 2020 that was postponed to 2021. So they pegged it at 6.6 million people that were paying taxes at the time. But when we heard from the minister, she said that it was only 2.8 million people. Is that not an underrepresentation of the real facts on the ground, which is why you're saying we need the E-Levy to widen the tax net?
Yeah, thank you. Good morning to you. Good morning to lawyer George Opariado. It's been a while. And good morning to our favorite.
He's from my village.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So you're literally brothers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doing
propaganda. One of my favorite TV personalities, Kojo Poku.
Okay.
Who you be endorsing for flag bearers?
Leave him out of it,
Yeah, Bella. The minister actually made the statement that in making a case for E-Levy, these are the percentages of people that are contributing in our tax administration regime. And the GRA is come out with these figures. Maybe there's a context that the finance minister is trying to push. I don't know whether those who are paying direct income taxes and we all know that people in the informal sector, we encouraging. It's been over a period that they are being encouraged to make payment, but we are taking deliberate steps to rope them in with these Ghana card issues and so that we get people who are supposed to pay tax paying the taxes. Okay, and so that's one aspect. And based on this, even if we have tax paying bracket of about 11.8 and 6.6 are paying, it's still not enough. You get it?
But that's higher than the 2.8 that you put out.
Definitely.
So were you misinforming us?
No, and I would say I would want to know the context within which the finance minister, maybe a particular category of taxpayers, direct income taxes and if you look at our payroll, what's the number of people that are, captured on our payrolls and all that. So we look at that, and then the quantum from the informal sector that are also joining. So it's whatever it is, we are falling short, even though last year we exceeded our target marginally. If you projected 57 and you do 57.3 billion, it's marginal, but that is good. And if you look at that and bring it to this year's projection of 100.1 billion, it's somebody will say we are being maybe overly ambitious in meeting our tax revenue target, but it's also good. And then looking at the expenditure that has been projected in the budget, good news is that as part of the concessions we are making in getting this E-Levy passed, we're ready to cut down expenditure by 20%.
Yeah, but a lot of people have raised concerns about that you haven't given us the specific areas where you intend to cut expenditure.
The details will then be rolled out as you continue to engage the leadership, and so we will let you know which areas we're going to cut, because if it's part of the concession moves that we are making, then of course we need to spell out the details, and those details will be put out there. And so yes, Ghanaians, I say that this ESLA thing is a patriotic call on all of us. I saw somebody working with a disaster agency organization, I saw the COVID as a war situation, okay, and it's impacted seriously on our economy. The president did say that in warning all of us that what we do not know is to bring back the dead, right? But what we do know and we can do is to bring back the economy. And so in the process of bringing back the economy, there are certain hard decisions that we need to take, which will call on every individual. Case after war, rebuilding the economy, the ravages of war, you get it. So I say it's a patriotic call. Every 100 cities, we are pleading and calling on you to contribute to the rebuilding process. One city, 75
But there are leakages that you are not addressing,
yes.
and yet you're asking the already burdened Ghanaian to pay more taxes.
Yeah, the leakages, as you go on, you'll be plugging them. And that is why we are doing the digitalization. If you heard what happened yesterday when His Excellency, the Vice President, went to the National Service Secretariat, okay? And they're getting that about 112 million is being saved as a result of the digital drive. Okay, and so a lot of people may be on the payroll who are actually physically not there or may not be there. And so if you do the digitalization, then you'll be getting out, some of these things and weeding them out so that we get actual strength of the payroll. Okay? It's a good drive. And all these are part of, getting corruption out of the system. May be difficult, but it's a good drive. Transparency. If Ghana.gov is there, you're going to pay on that platform and it goes. Nobody is going to have the privilege of saying, let me use this money and later put it back, because it's gone straight into the government chest. You get it? And so these are all drives and measures this government is putting in place to get rid of corruption or minimize corruption to barest minimum. So these are things that we know. And then another aspect that I will want to, nobody, Bella, is excited by the introduction of taxes anywhere. I want to ask my brother, lawyer Giorgio Pariado, whether when they were bringing ESLA, how many Ghanaians did they approach to see whether they like it or not? Okay, and what was the consensus of the Ghanaian populace? That we love it. When they were putting tax on condoms, when they were putting tax on cutlasses, akpeteshi, okay, how many Ghanaians endorsed that?
But back in 1995, when the VAT was introduced, the NPP was against it.
Yes. We're in a contest.
Hold on, before you carry on. So they put a break on it for 3 years to engage the public. To engage the public on it.
Yes, that's
You don't think that you should do that with the E-Levy? Not necessarily 3 years, but Ghanaians are opposing it and saying, we're not ready to pay.
With the VAT, they brought it at 17%. Get-go. And we said no. It's a new tax. If there's a proverb in Akan, you get it. What literally means is that if you just
falsely take out your teeth.
Yes, so blood will ooze and others. So we need to hasten slowly. We need to go step by step. Which step by step was that? Look, bring it down. Start at 10%. We were not against the introduction of the tax, the VAT, but the rates. That's what.
Is that not the same thing that's happening right
now? Ultimately, President Rawlings, he
pulled the brakes on that.
Yes,
exactly.
and then consulted.
So why can you not do same now?
No, but I thought you even in your intro, you said we had agreed to step down to 1.5, right?
Yeah, but you are now engaging the public.
Yes.
On the
and the second aspect is that the finance minister and his team have engaged the telcos, right? And they've agreed to reduce their service charge by 0.25, which is equivalent to about 25% of what you're taking. So if you do that, it invariably means the imposition is actually around 1.25. Okay? It's about 1.25. That's from 1.75 to 1.25. Okay? That is the rate that is being given out to the consumer. Okay, so these are issues, and the argument the lawyer made is good, and it's part of the engagement we are doing. And one other argument is that it's not a compulsory tax. Okay, and if you use the mobile money, then you be using that.
But there's been an increase in the number of people who've been using Momo.
Of course. That's the reason. You see,
since
that
COVID.
is part of the reason
why
the
lot of
yes.
businesses are on digital transactions.
Yes.
A lot of people are making payments via that.
It's safer. That is why government is directing its attention there. Now, look, if there are transactions in billions, okay, I stand to be corrected. I was told, is it last year or so?
About 500 million or so.
Billion, you get it, yes, in digital transactions. And as I speak, I made an example the other time that my sweet sister, Ajua Menu at Edukrum, knows how to cook very well and decides to advertise that on Facebook. And people begin to patronize. She delivers about 50 packs a day, okay, and pays nothing as tax. This digital thing, first 10 packs will be exempt. Then the remaining 40, something will be paid to the state. Is it a crime?
But why don't you then identify these peculiar situations and find a way to tax them?
No, you see, let me be honest with you. The aspect that the minority makes that also, catches my attention is the argument that it's like you're taxing capital. You get it. In fact, at a meeting, we have the opportunity to pose some of these issues. That if I'm moving my money from point A to, let's say, I'm transferring money, why should I pay? Because we've not transacted business yet. You get it. But it's saying that once I'm moving it, you have the transaction taking place. But that explanation maybe will be deepened with the public engagement.
Could I come to you shortly?
Yes.
But just one more thing that I want you to explain. Yesterday, Mr. Sami Jemfi was here. He's the communication director of the NDC. And he says that the only reason you're pushing for the E-Levy is because you want at least some security so that you can go back for more loans from the international market. And we've seen a post from Mr. Sibe Yeboah, who is the former chairman of the Finance Committee in Parliament. And he says that really the E-Levy is not the way to go. Go to IMF and collect $3 billion US.
You see, well, lawyer Sami Jemfi is one guy I like from the NDC. He's smart. You cannot take that. Hey, he's my brother.
Okay, I see.
You get it. So he's put out his argument.
Is that really the case?
No, in the financial environment, you cannot rule out the possibility. I'm not saying that is the case. You cannot rule out that possibility.
That you could use the funds,
so what it
gotten
is
from
that,
the E-Levy to go for some more
you
loans?
mortgage it and then use it to build whatever now and pay as time goes on. It's possible. And it happens in the financial arena.
No. Let me feed into Ghana Beyond Aid.
I'm not
so
saying,
we're not supposed to go back for loans.
No, Ghana Beyond Aid is a gradual transition process. It's a gradual transition process. And the last one, as said by lawyer finance economist Sibe Yeboah, former member of parliament, going to IMF. Look, have we weighed the possible consequences? When our brothers were going to the IMF, how much were they going for? I stand to be corrected, 918 million in 2015. Okay, 918 million at that time was less than 4 billion Ghana cedis as of that time. Okay, we are looking at a projection of about 6.9 billion. That's the projections we are making to get out of this. And nobody is going to ask us to stop free SHS. Nobody is going to ask you to stop the recruitment of NAPCO people. Nobody is going to ask you to stop recruitment in the public sector. Okay, because you should be responsible in those decisions and how to get your finances. That limit given to us in expenditure pattern, not more than 5%. I've forgotten the term. So, as a government, if we're prudent and we manage those things and we take charge of our own destiny, we'll be able to continue to implement these far-reaching social policies that are beneficial to our people. And not see anybody. Because if we go to IMF, what they will tell you is, you don't have money, you're coming for support, and you're still doing freebies. Some of these things must immediately stop. Okay? So what happens? So we are weighing those options. We are saying just that against our people say, okay, let's all contribute to raise 6.9 billion in the first year.
Dr. Sibe Yeboah says that's overrated. It's 5 billion we're going to raise from the E-Levy, not 6.9.
No, if we reduce it to this 1.5, probable. But the figures that were put out, those are there. Yes.
So
those are the issues.
A lot of transactions will go down. People will stop.
No, we did research. Our research, Bella, before Kojo comes to, our research too, and as announced by lawyer John Kuma, Deputy Finance Minister, that we anticipate that about 24% attrition rate. Yes. Okay, that is it. But then they will be back. And I see these digital transaction in economics as falling under inelastic man. Okay, what it means, like the person who smokes. Raise the price of 555 to whatever. He is not going to stop smoking. Okay?
You can never say that for sure.
No. You
can never say that for sure.
Proven.
We saw that happen in other countries that E-Levy was introduced.
The consequences of robbers coming after you.
Okay.
We'll go for the digital.
Let me bring you in, and I'm going to read something from an article that Bright Simmons posted on tax collection. And this is actually a report by UK's Institute of Fiscal Studies. Now, it says here that tax collections on imported goods have become far less important in the revenue mix, though they remain significant. So it says 30% of overall tax revenues were collected on imported goods in 2019, including VAT on imported products, compared with 54% in 2000. So the contribution of import duties specifically to total tax revenue declined from 18% in 2000 to a low of 12% in 2019. This is just one of the many instances where we're losing so much money, so much revenue that we could raise, so that would rather even replace the E-Levy. Yesterday, Honorable Samuel Kujetua-Blakwa also listed a number of areas where we can actually rake in some more revenue so we don't have to charge E-Levy. Do you agree with that?
Yes. Let me start off from the issue of IMF and World Bank. Look, we are a sovereign nation. We got independence from the colonial masters. When we got independence, the whole idea is that we are a nation, we can take off our own affairs. Going back to IMF or World Bank is to say that I can no longer take care of myself. I can no longer handle my own affairs. Please, IMF, come and rule over me. Okay? So anybody who keeps campaigning this, go to IMF and give you what? IMF is going to give me 3 billion and dictate to me. So you are going to go to IMF for them to dictate how you run your country. That's what Setepe did. He went to IMF for IMF to dictate to us how we run our country. That means don't campaign. Don't tell Ghanaians you want to run this country, because then you do not have the innovative, smart thinking to run the nation. So please, let's leave the IMF thing out. We are Ghanaians, we can run our own country. Okay. What you said, leakages, very important. We've all heard the Auditor General report where 4 billion every year is being wasted. Taxes at the port, we are not getting enough. We came in and said that, look, we are going to plug leakages at the port. Sometimes when an individual is making 10 million cedis, you think he's rich. But in the scheme of a national development, 10 million cedis is nothing. Okay? So the grand agenda is to look at, yes, the leakages, the waste, but fundamentally, let's look at what we are trying to do as a nation. Today, we make 57 revenue this year. We made 57. Out of the 57, 24 billion go towards tax interest on loans, money we borrowed. 28 billion last year. This year will be more because we've given the 1.7 rates to the salary government workers. So let's call it 30 billion Ghana cedis will go towards salaries. You add that to, that's 54 billion Ghana cedis. You are only left with a physical space of 3 billion from your total collectible revenue. What can that do? It can't do much. So what we need to do as a nation is to admit that we are a poor nation. Then cut our coat according to our size. Let the average Ghanaian understand that we are not a middle-income nation. Because if we don't, look, year on year, all this IMF and the World Bank, everybody's talking. What they've been telling us to do is to cut our wage bill, make people redundant, reduce that wage bill. There is sense in that. And the sense in that is that you collect money, the higher echelon of your people, 5 years to retirement, you give them a one-bullet payment and retire them. Make about 10% space in your physical space. That can now help you start balancing your budget. We need to get onto a trajectory where we stop the borrowing. All this thing of E-Levy to be collateral to borrow, we should stop it. The reason I say that is that we're going to get to a point, Greece will happen. We might not be able to pay our debt. And you can't be asking Ghanaians the small money they make to keep squeezing them, because the more you now squeeze the middle class, the middle income, they get poorer, you don't develop the country. Everybody should admit that we need to raise revenue. E-Levy, yes, maybe not thought through perfectly. But the question is, we need to raise revenue. So maybe we need to now come back to the table and say, look, can we develop a comprehensive universal tax? All tax experts in this country have said that the E-Levy does not expand the tax net. It double tax them. It basically tax, like my brother said, capital that is just being shared across. Maybe I'm giving money for someone for safekeeping. It will tax it. It's not right. So I think it's become a political football because our brothers in the NDC want something to basically campaign on.
Is that really the case? They say they are speaking on behalf of the Ghanaian
Well, yes,
populace.
but what are the alternatives they put out there?
But they
the
haven't.
alternatives is that,
okay.
no, let me make a point.
I'll just read out
the
what
alternative is that,
someone
what I'm saying is that, look,
said.
We only make 57 billion as a nation. We saw that the expenditure which the president wanted to make was 145 billion, reduced by 20%. Even that, a lot of communities say that their projects are not in there. So there's a lot, there's a hunger for development in this country. Can they honestly tell us that with 57 billion, okay, which is the possible upward of 60 billion, let's grant that we increase revenue collection to 60 billion. Can anybody tell us that we'll be able to develop this country with that money? No, we can't. So when people are promising we'll pay rent for graduates, when people are, you see, politicians are happy to overpromise.
Is your party that promised?
Well, I am not. You see, I will get there in a minute. But you see, MPP also did promises, and for me, I think that should stop. It's about time we look at the Ghanaian in the face and say, look, we need. Yesterday, I love the statement you made. The guy said, tighten our belt. And he said, we don't even have a hook to tighten the belt.
No, it was actually Comrade who said that.
He says, the guy doesn't have a hook. Yes, politicians don't have a hook. Because you go somewhere, there's a Land Cruiser, you know it's a politician's car because the engine is on and then 950 windows no. Why are we doing that to ourselves as a nation?
The windows are sweating.
Are sweating, yes.
The MPP
yes, the NDC.
Not the MPP.
Everybody,
Government vehicles. Whether it's the MPP or NDC.
He said the same. We've been coming to this studio for over 12 years. And whenever you see a car outside and the window is sweating, you know it's a politician.
Oh, so your car, the window has been sweating.
I don't have, my car is a Kia. You can go and look at it. But let me make a point. The point is this. We need to address the issue of taxes. The leakages at the ports. There's a fundamental issue at stake. And that is what the government today is doing, the digitization agenda. But for me, it's not going fast enough. Okay. We spent 5 years and we are still not there. Look, Ghana Card, we promised that we do it in the first 2 years. It's been 5 years. Why? So it's the pace at which we want to do these things. We have goodwill, but it's the innovation, the stay at it attitude. We get distracted. Okay, so if you think that digitization is what it needs to be done, first 2 years, get it done.
But are we not reversing the gains because now we're introducing E-Levy? So that's
but my point is that yes, we all agree that E-Levy need a second thought. Nobody in this country think that because we went into a meeting with the finance minister, the CSOs, and there was a great consensus that look, yes, we didn't consult properly. We need to consult, and we need to have a second thought. Maybe going forward, the E-Levy will be a stopgap measure. Okay, where in the long term, we will now take time and develop a comprehensive universal tax for everybody to pay their taxes. Because for me, I think that there are a lot of people driving around in Ferraris and Lamborghinis in Ghana and they don't pay any tax. Okay? Rich people saying they are rich, you ask them for money, they can't bring it. We saw the famous, somebody owe 4 billion, the person has a private jet, he can't pay the 4 billion. What are we talking about? So we need to tax.
Okay.
So that is a bigger conversation that we need to get the tax experts around the table in the room and instill that in a week or two we get a solution. We dragging these things along is what is costing us. We can no longer leave it as business as usual. So what my brothers wrote is perfectly right. We are not collecting enough and there are loopholes. And SOE is making 5 billion losses. Why? There are some SOEs we don't need to have. Why are Ghana still having some state-owned enterprises? Some of them need to go. Okay? And if the ones we keep, we still putting round pegs in square holes. We stop that. Employ meritocracy to run these institutions. That is the way to go. Politicians, MPP, NDC are doing this to ourselves and hurting the average Ghanaian. What we don't seem to realize is that who vote for us? It's not just MPP and NDC. It's the electorate who give us the 50+1.
Okay.
And today, the middle income, those Mobrowa who work for 1,000 cedis, 2,000 cedis are suffering. Because by the time they pay all these bills, there is nothing. Yesterday, a gentleman said that with this increment of fuel prices, gas price, people go to the gas pump. Nobody is able to now pick a 14-cylinder and fill it. They go and said, oh, Mami thought. So instead of filling the 14 kg for 125 Ghana cedis, he's buying 50 cedis. He's buying 80 cedis. That goes to affect the cylinder recirculation model we want to introduce, because the cylinder recirculation model says that you go, there's a filled cylinder, you pick one. If the person doesn't have money to buy 125 and he wants to only buy 50 cedis, he won't go and pick a full cylinder. So things that we are doing today is affecting fundamental policies that we need going forward in this country. Was
the suspension of the levy, because I remember that sometime November 1, that was when the president directed that the levy be suspended. So we zero rated it so that it would at least ease the burden on Ghanaians when it has to come to buying fuel. I remember COPEC came out and said that even that was not going to reduce the price of fuel. Yes. In actual fact, there was a likelihood that it would increase. Yes. And we saw an increment in fuel prices. And now we have reintroduced this levy. Are we not burdening Ghanaians even more? Do you think that government has found a way to intervene in order to reduce that burden properly?
No, we have not done that. Look, last year, there's some of us, myself, Institute for Energy Policy and Research, COPEC and other, I think ASEP, we did a submission to MPA. And what we said was that we've done deregulation for some years. And for me, it is not helping the average Ghanaian. So MPA should relook at the deregulation policy. The reason I say this is this. What Duncan said is that you can take all the taxes. The OMC can increase the market and dealers' margin and negate the tax that government has taken out. So when people are saying that, oh, take tax, if even today, we don't do the education well. There are some OMCs selling cheaper, okay? Maybe go out today is at 7 cedis. But Goodness or some other Zen or other guys are like 6.6 or 6.7. That's 30 pesos less than what you can pay for. But the mentality is that cheaper fuel is not good. So we've been joining with MPA to educate the Ghanaians that it's not true. There is actually a fuel marker, which we all pay 5 pesos a liter, on that fuel to make sure that it is authentic. So the issue of bad fuel is cheap, cheaper fuel is bad, it's not true. But the issue of the deregulation is not helping for Ghanaians, because the OMC, as the government takes the taxes, they can increase their margin because it's not regulated. A deregulated market today, some ONCs could be making as much as 80 pesos a liter, when they can regulate at 35 pesos. Sorry, they can work at 35 pesos. So you should look at certain measures, whether to cap the margins for the OMCs, so that when you reduce the taxes, the Ghanaian will see the benefit. Because by reducing taxes, like in the window where we reduced the 16 pesos, nobody saw it, because in that window, prices went up. And prices has been going up. And for me, I think it's unfortunate that per the law of the PSLR, it says that it's only when prices are low that it should be introduced. Now prices are high. And I think to introduce it now is really not the best time. Because in the month of February, a lot of things are going up, okay? And it goes up on who? The guy who's earning still 1,200 cedis a month. So it's not well. So we should find a way to bring back some of these things and look at ways to basically do some. Because Ministry of Finance will say, oh, I need money. But what did they do with the money? If you go and look at the PSLR, their accounts, they bought outboard motors with some of that money. Is that what it's meant for?
That's not what it's meant for.
No, it's not meant for outboard motors. You understand? Outboard motors, for I don't know who they bought it for, but Fisher Force is not for them. So the point is that let's use the money. That's why we asked that where is the 1.26 billion? Because we've accumulated 1.26 billion. Ministry of Finance can account for the money. They've used it. So we should collect statutory money and use it for what it is for.
Okay. George, I mean, we introduced the deregulated market sometime back in 2015 when your party was in power. Do you think that it has served its purpose, or maybe it's time we re-look at deregulating the market?
See, Bella, policies are made, and then after a certain period, an assessment is made. As it stands now, I want to believe that the deregulation has not helped the Ghanaian market. I started with what you just said. It is time we went back to the table to re-look at deregulation. Because the OMCs, excuse my word, are getting greedy. They don't feel the pinch of the ordinary Ghanaian. Where we find ourselves today, the situations in which we find ourselves, I think it's time government intervened and told the OMCs that enough is enough. we did this for a certain period. It is time to come back and review it.
What was the reason behind that?
No, because the reason behind, I'm not an energy person, but I know that it was a policy that had been on the table for some time.
Yeah.
It started during President Kofo's time, because you can correct me if I'm wrong. And it had been ongoing. Yeah. And you know, because government was also looking at supporting free trade.
Well, government was subsidizing a lot. There's a lot of subsidies in fuel. That's the main. There's a lot of subsidies in there. So to take our state government subsidies, government need the free market to operate.
So that was introduced. I believe that after how many years now? 7 years now, we need to come back and look at it and ask ourselves the relevant questions. Has it solved the problem that a policy was made to come and address? If not, then what is the way forward? What can we all do in these times in which we find ourselves? We are in special times, right? Coming from the back of COVID. We cannot sit down and say that COVID did not have an impact on the ordinary Ghanaian. And so we expect companies like the OMCs to be more reasonable and then feel for the ordinary Ghanaian. But the best person to take this initiative is government. Like Kwejo rightly said, in the month of February, right after January, it's a very difficult month. Prices are still high out there. Prices are low, so you cannot reintroduce levies at this time. It is bad timing. It is a mark of an insensitive government that does not care and feel for the plight of its people. That will be introducing these levies at this time. At this time when everybody is out there complaining. UTAG is on strike. The Ghanaian worker is hard-pressed for cash. The economy is not doing well. Businesses are not thriving. Everybody is struggling. And at this time, salaries have not been increased. We all saw what happened in December. Things that were, I'm not a government worker, so I don't know for a fact, but what we heard was that even how much was due some workers did not come. We saw the statement that came from the ministry and the difficulties they had. Those issues have still not been resolved. So immediately you introduce the levies again. What it simply means is that prices at the pump is going to go high. And when prices go high, it is the ordinary Ghanaian who is still earning the salary that he was earning last year that is going to suffer. It is not the best time.
Mr. Senya Hosi is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors. He says that governments can actually reduce the price of fuel to 6 cedis. There are a few things they need to do, including scrapping the bust margin as well.
Well, let me answer that. Senya Hosi can start letting his own people start reducing prices and we will benefit. Which one is that? The chamber of BDCs. Why do we have BDCs in this country today? Me and him have been having this fight at MPA. I petitioned MPA that we should scrap BDCs. Okay. We should. It's outlived. BDC has outlived what it's for. So Senya should not make that statement.
But he's right. He's right on his score.
He's right?
Yeah, he's right. Because we still know that there are some taxes that the government can still reduce further to bring the prices of petrol.
So if you reduce the taxes, how you could develop the country?
No. If you say when you reduce the tax, you develop the country. You just said that the money they've even collected so far, there is no accountability. I don't know how they are using that revenue. But what we are saying is that as a government, when your people are hard-pressed, when your people are struggling, when times are not the best, you intervene. The best way for interventions is reduce your taxes. I can understand Kwejo's point about how we develop the country. But development is not an event, it's a process. As it stands now, we are struggling. Nothing seems to be working in this country. Get to the market. No, go out there, you feel it. When you trade, when you are doing even buying and selling, the goods are still out there, nobody buying them. So if government has taxes that we believe are a bit harsh on us, it is time government reduce those taxes. And we all acknowledge the fact that if government reduce those taxes, certainly prices will be brought down slightly. But if government is going to do his, the BDCs and the OMCs must also do same. Because it cannot be only government reducing its taxes whilst the OMCs continue to benefit.
But with a situation like the increment in fuel prices, we know that there are some factors that influence the price on the market anyway, and that includes the price of crude oil on the foreign markets. It also includes the depreciation of the cedi as against the dollar. And so
then government has more to do, especially with depreciation of the cedi.
We're doing far better.
You're doing far better. In what way?
In the rates.
You think they're doing far better?
How
and
so?
Fuel pricing, exchange rate depreciation. Just do the maths.
Rhetorics. Just ignore
No, facts.
Where are the facts? The facts is very
Okay, George,
simple.
land on this so I can hear from
The facts are very simple. The facts are that today, what is the current exchange rate? So if you tell me you are doing better, and then the CD to the dollar is about 6.6, and you tell me you're doing better, then you're deceiving yourself. They need a wake-up call because they are living in a certain world. Keep deceiving themselves that they are doing better. That is how come they are performing so abysmal. If they agree that things are not right, if they agree that they have failed, and that they need solutions to the problems confronting them, so that they have a bigger, broader stakeholder consultation, we will be making headway. But this arrogance posturing of we are doing better, where better means what? In 2016, when we were handing over, what was the CD to the dollar rate? Today.
4.2.
And what is the rate today?
6.4.
So 6.6.
6.7 in some cases.
Don't mind him. And you think you're doing better.
Bella, where do you buy your
Black market rate.
Where do you buy your
6.7 in some cases.
Bella, I want to know where you get. Listen, and we all want to know where Bella is getting
6.7
Bella,
in
where
some cases.
do you get
And so you think you're doing better. Then George, I'm sorry for you because the Ghanaian people are telling you that you failed. And until you wake up to that realization, you continue to be living in your world and be taking all of us for granted. And that wake-up call will be coming very soon.
George, you're being asked to wake up.
Yeah.
You're saying you've done far better in terms of
the exchange rate and then fuel prices.
Tell us how, because this year alone, fuel prices have gone up 2 times. This year alone.
I'll tell you. No problem. You get it.
We've exceeded the 7
I'm happy
cedi.
Kojo is
The dollar
here. He's
will
an
break
expert.
at 4
prices.
Yeah, thank you. But before I proceed, I beg, the issue of, Kojo is an expert there, but the issue of cheaper fuel is not good. We've had cases, Kojo, where MPA is gone round and adulterated fuel and all that, okay, and many car owners complain and go. So those things are a reality. Yeah. So the safety protocols being enforced by MPA should be intensified so that we can have that safety. And that is what informed that issue of cheaper fuel. And you're right, that may not be entirely true, but because of some of these things. And I don't think, Kojo, you see, in considering E-Levy, one of the first things that was put on the table was no. We are in this arena. Was increasing, the tax components of fuel, and the president said no. That is not an option because the people are, already complaining of these tax issues,
George,
and so that is a no-go area.
Hold on, please. Hold on.
I just want to ask them. The extractive industry.
Yeah.
What is happening to it?
Don't worry.
Can you fall on it?
Yes, don't worry.
No,
we are even GISDEC and JARDEC and co. They are places that we are trying to, expand investments there. That's iron and steel industry. The iron and steel industry. We've set up that establishment, and then the JARDEC. Bauxite development.
Let's not digress. Let's go back to that.
Yeah, so those are issues. That's how come the president said no. We cannot impose more taxes on fuel because we think everybody it's an easy avenue too. So we need to get innovative and get other arenas. That's how come we bring it E-Levy and we're facing this.
You were thinking out of the box.
E-Levy is the innovation.
Yes. So the transaction there, it is. I disagree with the people who think it's not. Okay, but let's get to the issue. I made the argument of fuel pricing. Look, they took a liter of fuel at 80 pesos. 80 pesos in 2006. By the time they left, it was 4 cedis, 15 pesos per liter. Check 5th of January 2017. Okay, so these are the facts. Check the rate, over 418%. It translated to about 52.25% increment per annum. That was the average. Today, we took it at 4 cedis, 15 pesos a liter. And let me even take it at 7 cedis, 15 pesos. It's about 72% increment. Annual average increase is about 14.3%.
Which is why you say you've done better?
Yes.
But we keep comparing from what they
did wrong. It is about the rate.
But you told us you will do better.
You measure it.
To be much better than what you're saying.
14 against 52.25. It's better.
And that's because the regular Ghanaian is saying that my salary is the same.
Yes.
The economy is in shambles. I'm struggling.
I'm not saying because we're doing better, it's not biting. It is. I'm not sitting here to say, the salary increment of 7% this year. Still, some workers are saying no. Okay?
Yeah.
And so these are issues that we are looking at. And that's how we are saying that if we stabilize the economy after the ravages, and then we are able to move, then, because we were growing at an average of 7% before COVID came, you get it? And so it is something that we want to rebuild. When we, in the banking, the cliche or this thing is that let's create and share. That's the slogan also for the bankers. And they all put in their energy and effort to work hard to get those things done. I said, so that is what we are looking at. The last, this thing I was talking about. So if you take exchange rate at 1 CD 12 pesos, and by the time you left it's 4 CDs 20 pesos, and we take it at 4 CDs 20 pesos, let me even push it to the 6 CD 60 pesos you're talking about. Okay, so in 5 years, you get it. So it's not that you should assume that there's not going to be price, rate depreciation or something. There will be, okay, and there will be change in price at the world market here. And Kojo himself is aware that the two things, lawyer said it, the world price and then exchange rate matters. They are two major things that determine the fuel pricing and those things. You get it? And so as a government, you need to have a handle on the depreciation. Okay? And that is part of the reason we are embarking on these one district, one factory things, and then vehicle assembling plants and other things, so that we can do a lot of the things here. And you'll not be needing more forex to be, importing things. You get it? So these are things that gradually we are pushing in the economy. Okay? That is the only way that we can change the structure of the economy, and then we'll get the dividends therefore.
Can you not scrap the boss margin at least in the meantime?
We suspended something. You see, you answer it better. Then we suspended something, and then we are reinstating it. The law is saying the timing, and I think everybody, they both saying the timing is not appropriate. Okay,
to reintroduce
because we are just coming from January, and we all know how long it took. January
but then in this case, it was even supposed to end in December.
Good.
And the NPA decided to extend it by one month anyway.
Why does everybody go after the boss margin? Is it because people don't know what the boss margin is used for? Because it looks like everybody seems to want to use as a paniada. Look, the boss margin. Boss does infrastructure investment that no private business will do, because private business looks at returns on investment. So for strategic infrastructure, like building a tank farm in Bolgatanga or Bupe and all those things, maintaining those farmers, and then you see, we need to also.
I'm not cutting you. Why are they are they not using the pipeline system?
The pipelines is being used for the first time in so many years. There is actually fuel being transported from the Afram Plains depot to Bolga, and we actually went to inspect it. Last year, Edwin took us to Bupe and to Bolga to inspect it, and we're actually making export from the Bolga to the landlocked countries.
That's a good beginning.
It's a good beginning. Edwin is doing well. Okay, the thing is that BOST plays a role. And if you starve BOST from the investment, then the infrastructure will not be. Let me give you an example. When your fuel, the tank comes to, the BRV comes to load, right? At all today, when they put the tube in there to fill the tank, somebody is standing on top of the tank and the petrol is going in. When he gets to a gauge where he thinks it's okay, let's say the person needs 40,000 liters. So he's going in, he's looking, then he shuts the pipe manually, right? Then they bring a dip and dip it to find out whether you are over or low. If you are over, they say, oh, we can't bring it out again, so you will record it next time when you come, we'll deduct it. That is what we're doing at all. And before at BOST. Now today, because of the BOST levy, BOST has a computerized system. You punch in 4,000 liters, the arm goes in and gives exactly 4,000 liters. So we need some of these BOST margins to improve the infrastructure. Without that, the infrastructure would deplete, because we need to also keep like pipelines. All these BRVs on our road being burning every day. Imagine we have pipelines from Accra to Kumasi, providing our supplying fuel.
I understand there's a cabal in that industry.
Well, but gradually you can break it. Yes, people make a lot of money from BRV transport, and they will not go easily. Okay, so you doing a pipeline from Accra to Kumasi will take a lot of food from people's table. That's true, but you need to gradually take that out and introduce the pipeline. That is what the boss margin is for. So please, let's not be bashing the boss margin all the time. Because I realize that it's a go-to for everybody. Why can't we take out the boss margin?
Well, but these are concerns that have been raised by stakeholders in the industry.
Well, imagine it was 3%. Imagine it was 3% 2 years ago. And some of us argued that it should go to 6%. Then recently, it was going to 9%. It was at 12%. And we went and said, no, my brother, we can't agree in 12. Then NAPO agreed that they should do 9%. And 9% is going to be there. I don't think, even the 6% for me, when I heard that Edwin was trying to get that 12, I was very upset. So we went in and discussed with the minister who said, look, let's call a meeting. We called the meeting and that thing was brought to 9%. But it's going to be like that for a very long time. Nobody's going to increase that boss margin anytime soon.
But, I mean, Ghanaians are going to have to pay more in transportation moving forward, because I remember that the Drivers Association had threatened to increase the rates. In fact, they said they were going on a sit-down strike as well. Government met with them. That also came with its own controversy as to who said what at what point in time. But we're facing the reality now, and it's likely that transportation fares are going to go up. And I keep asking because salaries have remained the same over time. And you keep increasing taxes.
Not
necessarily, but even for the fact that even public sector workers had their salaries increased by just 4% and then eventually 7%. They are crying and they are asking that what are you doing about our situation? But we only keep paying extra for food, extra for transport, and our salaries are the same and nothing is being done about it.
Government has been engaging these transport owners. The transport minister himself has met them severally. But it's just proper and fair to them to say you cannot be increasing prices and then you say they should. You get it. They should not. They are into the transport business to make profit. Okay, and so if you are, because some of the indices are the world price market, exchange rate, you make all those arguments. The bottom line is that there's been an increase from point A to point B. Okay, and you say, and I think there was a gentleman's agreement between the transport owners and government that any time the cumulative increase is above 10%. They have the leeway to also do the necessary adjustment. Okay, the truth is that it's not only fuel that determines the prices. There are ties, spare parts, and all that. You come together to determine what it is. So I think let's engage them. Yes, I agree. If they want to increase it, they should be given. But the margin is what we should negotiate on, so that they will not be running bad business. Okay, people invest in buying vehicles as business, and so if they do that, and then your decisions are crippling them and not making them break even, let alone make profit, then it's not going to be a lucrative business, and people wouldn't put. And so it's going to ultimately affect the consumer that you care about. You get it? And so let's negotiate with them so that the rate will be acceptable.
Council, what's your advice to government at this point, looking at the rate at which things are going up?
Well, let's correct an impression. Anytime the NPP speaks, they claim we've increased salary by 7%. That's not true. Last year was 4%. This year is 3%. So it's cumulative.
So that's 7%.
No, that is not. No.
How is it not 7%?
Consistently, every year salaries are increased.
Okay.
You understand? So let's put this argument in proper context. So
but the 4% that was announced, it was supposed to reflect this year, was it not?
No,
it was for last year.
It was for last year.
Yes.
Okay.
So it is 3% increase for this year.
No, are you sure?
Yes, that is what it is.
And not the 7%?
No. So you see, every year you give me a salary increase. So last year you gave me 4%.
Okay, yes, true.
And then we said it was not enough. And then this year you've added 3%.
So cumulatively?
Then cumulatively should be adding all the previous years there.
I get what he means then, because this is a new year.
Exactly. This is a new year.
Just 3%. They said it that they had moved it from 4% to 7%. So we need to get that understanding. I get what he's saying though.
So that is the miscommunication they are doing. And everybody, that is the truth. Everybody is going with it. Because last year was 4%. When the noise was out, it was for last year.
4%,
this year, what is the increase? It's 3%.
No, the agreed figure was 7%.
Well, they said they moved it to 7%.
They have added.
That will need.
They have added 3% to the 7. They have added 3%.
We'll need them to explain if really.
So you find out.
Yes, we'll find out.
And so that is the miscommunications they are putting out, and a lot of people are being swayed by it. But the truth is that it is not 7%. So let's establish that.
Okay.
Now let's come to your question. What was your question?
It's not established.
We'll follow up on that, I'm sure, because I don't want public sector workers to be agitated at this point.
The negotiation was for this year.
Yeah.
7% was agreed.
Well, they said that it was moved to 7% from the 4%.
So from the 4%, is there
maybe it means that they've actually increased by 7% for this year. Maybe.
So get
but I'll find out from them.
I'm saying that the negotiation was for 2022 salary. That was what agreed on 7%. And then they made a concession because of the difficulties to make 4% for last year. You get it. But his argument makes this thing. Let's verify and authenticate.
We'll borrow into this.
Anyway, what was your question?
What is your advice? My time is up.
My
advice to them
is very simple. Where we find ourselves today, arrogance is not the way to go. When I say arrogance, the posturing of the NPP, even in Parliament, in regard to the passage of the E-Levy and how they are trying to use the court systems to frustrate the process.
Is that what you think is happening?
No, with that same of issue. With that same of issue. It's an abuse of the court process, and I'll tell you why. Let me educate you.
Tell us.
When they went to the High Court, no, there is no ruling. Don't miseducate anybody here. There is no ruling. What the court has said is that they should go and serve the MP as an individual.
No, I'm talking of the
previous, because he was not supposed to have made an appearance in Parliament when they were voting for Speaker, by the way.
He's holding himself as an MP.
It's not true.
There was a ruling on that. Was there not?
Give me just 2 minutes to educate my brother George. You see here. When they went to court, at the High Court, they went for certain reliefs to injunct the MP from carrying himself as an MP. The High Court granted that. At the High Court, the NDC's argument was that the High Court should stay proceedings, refer the matter to the Supreme Court, so that Article 94(2) will be properly interpreted. The High Court said no. Went ahead and gave his decision. No problem. You need to seek permission. Once the High Court gave his decision, the MP went to the Court of Appeal. Once the processes are filed, and appeal processes are filed, it serves as a stay of execution to the decision from the High Court. Yes, please get proper education. Until that process is exhausted, the decision of the High Court is stayed. For electoral disputes, parliamentary electoral dispute, the highest court is the Court of Appeal. It doesn't go to the Supreme Court. Now, the processes they filed at the Supreme Court are the same release they took to the High Court, which is pending before the Court of Appeal. That is why I am saying that it's an abuse of the court processes. And let nobody misinform the public that the MP cannot continue to carry himself as an MP. Once the processes are stayed, he is still legitimate within his right to carry himself as MP. When he voted in the election of the Speaker, he had not been served. They had then gone to court. The processes had not started. So let nobody miseducate anybody.
No, we've gone beyond that.
But that is Bella just raised that he was not supposed to vote. It is not true. It is within his legal rights. As it stands now, he's still a sitting member of Parliament for the people of Aseno. A proper motion will have to be moved at the Supreme Court. The matter has to be determined by the Supreme Court before anything can be done. But all I'll tell the Supreme Court is that we all know in this country that electoral matters, parliamentary electoral matters, the court for final arbitration is the Court of Appeal. Let the Court of Appeal come out with its decision, and let's not try and put impediments in the way of the process.
Okay. All right. Final words from all of you, please, so we can go. My time is up.
Yeah, I want to make a humble appeal to the UTAG members. You pushed your case enough. Government is engaging you. We appeal to them to reconsider, because this government has made a lot of concessions as far as the allowances and co are concerned. Okay, the research allowance, book allowance, and co. Progress has been made. Okay, and we are saying we don't want to touch their basic salary because of these rippling effects. Okay, we are appealing to them. Let's consider our children, the students, and then go back to classroom whilst negotiation goes on.
Well, you should also give them exactly what
this government is bent
over backwards. We should give them anything.
You don't think they should give the electors anything?
They should not give them anything.
They've been asking for this.
What are they asking for?
Made a lot of
they are asking for, listen,
okay,
you have a job.
10 seconds.
Let me go. You have a job. You are paid salaries every month. You're asking for extra things, okay? You don't strike for extra things.
These are not extra things.
No,
they're asking you to go back to that 114%
What are they asking for?
on their basic salary.
This is a white paper signed by
what are they asking for?
Cancel.
What are they asking for? They are asking,
okay.
They are asking for development allowances and stuff like that. They are not saying that they are
research allowance.
Research allowance. Research allowance.
Okay.
For research allowance.
We have to go. We'll be cut off here. We have to go.
You should be teaching. No.
Okay. Mr. George, you see, is the communications director for NADMO. Lawyer George Opare-Addo is the national youth organizer of the NDC, and Kojo Poku is an energy expert. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. And later we have the communications director of the NPP, Mr. Yao Boabin-Asamoah, joining us this morning to respond to a number of issues. Of course, topical will be E-Levy, and we have sports and entertainment coming up. Keep watching. This is TV3 New Day.